I'm in a conference, so I cannot put my camera off for too long. I'm in a conference right now. Yeah.
Last panel. No extra time. Start on time. Finish on time. Once you finish, pack your attire, move. Once it's the time, do not. Every staff.
You said
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to thank everybody that has been attending our panel. Welcome and again, thank you. From panel number 1, number 2, number 3, and this is the 5th panel. And for every new directions of the studies panelists, please clap for yourself. You guys made this happen, and we have the largest panel in LSE. So today, at this moment, we are about to round up with the panel with the last section, and we are going to make it 3 so that we all can go and rest. Some of them just speak about papers and just breathe there and sharply and make it smart. We had lots of apple outside in the other panel because the people that were supposed to present the technical know-how did not allow them to present. Network cut them off, and then 2 other people were not telling because in this panel almost everybody is here. So we just discuss this like not that.
okay, this video.
So okay. So I will put to the other one. So our first panelist, yes. Yeah. Okay, our first panelist is Efetobo Stephanie Efetuki from the University of Ibadan, and she's going to be discussing her ideas on beyond remittance, the consequence of irregular migration on families left behind in Benin. Consequence of irregular migration on families left behind in Benin. Then the second paper is and that from a child. Where is Stephanie? Stephanie, scholar. Stephanie, you are supposed and from a child, rethinking social interaction for language preservation and cultural continuity by Ahmed Dawood. Come here now, just okay, Dawood, you are here. Then the next presenter is the economic revival of sheep. She's gonna avoid it absent. Then the third presenter is Afrobeat and Benin history, study of Shankopi over food. And it's by my humble self, the English part of the car. Thank you. And The last presenter is the Public Monuments and Historical Memory, the study of Greenwood Monuments by Mary Jane Oga. So because the table is not long, when she finishes, it goes down and let's come up. Let's do it like that. Are we good? Okay. Stephanie, you have 10 minutes for your presentation. If you make it 8 minutes, you will fail.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I get slides?
Okay, Stephanie is a doctoral student at the University of Ibadan. She's actually at her final stage, just waiting for them to fall. So that she will say, then she will go. So Stephanie is 1 minute away from being called Dr. Stephanie. So, and her area is on the religion and peace building and development study, and she also has interest on popular culture. That's really my friend. That's why I say I'm not really ready. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can I get the library? Yeah, okay. While we wait for the slides, good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie, the good like you said, I'm a doctoral student at the department. So today I'll be making my presentation, which is titled Beyond Remittances, Examining the Consequences of Irregular Migration on Family Left Here in Benin, Nigeria. So basically, this is an idea. This is a research idea I have. So the purpose is bringing it to you, sharing my ideal research objectives, and let's see how we can work together to make it a feasible research outcome. So, next slide. So, as we know, across the world, international migration is offering family livelihood and family relations. We live in a world wherein migration, as we know, is a normal part of human social existence. But we find that there's an increase in migration, both intra and inter-migration. And why is altering family relationship is that in the course of migration, especially looking at irregular migration, the migrants have to they are forced to leave their family behind instead of stay greener pastures. And in the course of their migration journey, at times they have to tolerate long period of separation. For instance, in the case of migrants moving from Benin to Europe, at times during the course of their journey from Libya, the Mediterranean, down to Europe, before they settle down, and at times they may not talk to their family members. At this point, they arrive at Europe, and before they settle down, doing the irregular job, they can't connect, they can't send their family members out. And even when they start working, because of the irregular status they have in the country, their destination country, it's difficult for them to have this. When I miss my family, I breathe in and I breathe out. So I'm trying to look at what does that mean for family relations. If we notice, most of the studies on international migration usually focus on the economic benefits. That everybody wants to Japan for better life, want to uplift our social mobility, want to make our life better for our family. But most times, we really don't focus on beyond the money we are getting. What is the consequence? What are the economic impact? What are the social impact? The psychological impact. So this is what my study is focusing on. And I'm not focusing on the general migration via the legal, very easy for you to travel tomorrow, travel back. I'm looking at irregular migrants. Then I'm focusing on the Benin City. Why Benin City? Because the Benin City is regarded as the migration of irregular migration of in Nigeria. So I have that my purpose research methodology, and I propose to use both oral interviews and secondary sources. Please let me go to the next slide. And I have 4 objectives that I'm proposing, which is one, to look at the socio-economic and psychological implications on irregular migration on family left behind. I'm trying to look at beyond the money that family receive from their migrants abroad. What does it mean in terms of intimate family relations? And that's husband and wife, they are married. Wife is in Europe, the husband is in Nigeria. For like 5 years, husband and wife may not see each other. Sometimes the husband is in Europe doing work, the wife is in Nigeria. For like 5 years, there is no sex. And especially in a country like Nigeria, wherein like a woman cannot leave her husband's house to go and engage in a sexual intercourse with another man. So 5 years is vagina is dry and all of that. What does that mean? Like you still call it marriage. So she's enjoying the money that is coming, but what does that mean? Then the children in the home also. 5 years, 10 years, they've not seen their father. So what's the difference between those children and people that are orphans? Or people that are fatherless? I'm trying to look at that. And I'm also trying to look at the interfamily and gender dynamics that influence dynamics of separation. In those days, it's usually the men that travel. So at times, people say when the man is absent, the effect is not really as much as when the mother is absent, because most times men, even if they are around, you really don't feed them. At times they just drop money, life goes on. But now that the women are the ones migrating, how does this affect the family relationship and even the connection, the bond between mother and child, mother and husband and the rest? I'm trying to look at that. Then I'm also looking at caregiving responsibility and intergenerational relationships. And then we in Africa, especially in Nigeria, we are like a close-knitted community. It is like most times to stay with our mother, our father, see, probably when we are getting married or we live to our husband and then even but everybody they are traveling in the church. Every family has family members as well. When you travel, you leave your father and your mother, your spouse, so the other people to care for. Can somebody care for your family the way you yourself care for your family? Then also when everybody travel, your cousin, your brother, your sister, what does it mean for this intergenerational relation? That I said, oh, this is my cousin. I know that at times we grow up, we even don't know our cousins, we don't know anybody. Everybody has migrated. What does that, what kind of impact does this have on the families? Then I'm also trying, after looking at this now, is the money, then I'm trying, my last objective is trying to look at, does the money and everything make up for this loss? I think I did some kind of a preliminary fit work, and some of the people we saw were like, even though we miss our family, if better say make dem stay Europe, but wetin they won't come back, come to. So these are the kind of questions that I have in mind. I've just trained it to the ask. If there are better questions you think I can answer, a better way to phrase my research objectives, I will appreciate your insight.
Quick and brief. So we take the next presenter. Please keep your questions. She's asking for your opinion. How to make this paper a reality. It's a work in progress for most of us that are presented. So yes. Please come up for your iPad. Okay. We take Mary Jane Oga. Please come over for your paper. So Mary Jane, you have 10 minutes for your paper, but if you can make it 5 minutes or even 8 minutes, to be glad. So that we can go and eat.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary J. Cooper.
Okay, sorry, Mary Jane is the postgraduate student at the Department of History, University of Ibadan. So she just completed her master's program and she's going to the US for her PhD. So Mary Jane, please, we are glad to have you.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction. So I'll just jump into the paper. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, speak louder.
Speak louder.
Okay.
I'm giving you mic.
The title of my paper is Public Monuments and Historical Memory, a study of the Ring Road Monument in Benin City. So the outline of my paper, first I'll go into the background/introduction, where I'll be discussing public monuments and historical memory, basically conceptualizing on these two concepts and going into the background of it. Then I'll state my objectives, and then I'm going to discuss an overview of Benin city, the cultural heritage, and everything that is peculiar to Benin. And then I'll discuss the Ring Road roundabout and the monuments that surround it. And then I'm going to discuss the significance and slash role of this monuments to Benin city. So this study basically it stems from the broader discussion on public history and history in the public sphere. So it's basically a broader discussion on the role of public monuments in creating or in preserving certain aspects of the past. Yeah, and we know in recent time or in our normal day lives, not everybody actually engages or goes to read history books to learn about their culture, their tradition, and aspects of their society. Most people gain this knowledge from public spaces, and monuments create part of this public space through which people can get to relate or have an idea about their past. So historical memory is, some scholars have argued that historical memory is actually different from actual history. And some of them have stated that historical memory is actually fluid and subjective because it can be influenced by cultural, religious, and political factors. And this is evident in the fact that some of the monuments we see around, they depict the kind of focus on a particular story, or they reflect a particular aspect of the past that the curator or the person who erected it considers important. So what happened to those aspects that are not considered important? That's another aspect of another area of argument among scholars. They're arguing about marginalization of certain historical narratives. So the monuments around, the monumental structures you see around, they only tell stories that are related to what they represent. What happens to other aspects of the past that there are no monuments to draw attention to? So these are the arguments. And then there's also the argument on who decides what to curate, who decides which aspects should be considered important and all. So, but central to this whole process is the public monuments. Yeah, to preserve and transfer historical memory. The central idea, the central part of this whole the purpose of creating monuments is to transfer historical idea from generations to generation and also promote public histories. But then there's concern about perpetration of marginalization, like I've already explained, and marginalization of certain aspects of history that is not reflected or represented by these public monuments. So the objective of my study basically is to examine the relationship between public monuments and historical memory, to unravel the diverse layers of narrative embedded in the Ring Road monument, and lastly, to examine the role/significance of public monuments in shaping collective memory and identity formation in Benin. So I'll be discussing a brief overview of the Benin Benin City. So Benin City is actually the capital of Edo State, Nigeria. It was previously an independent kingdom on its own before the British expedition of 1897. So Benin is known for its rich.
Okay, she's go. Sorry, can hear you. I can't hear you.
Sorry. Okay, Benin is considered as a cultural treasure trove in Nigeria because of their rich culture and their rich culture and their diverse cultural practices. So, and they also have a lot of heritage, significant heritage that is being transferred from generations to generation. One of those heritage is the Benin arts. That is one of their important contribution to arts in the world. So the Benin bronze and there are other.
So we don't waste time.
Okay.
So we already understand the overview.
Oh, okay.
People have dealt with that since.
Okay, so I'll just, because of time, I'll go straight into the core of my work. So
Please move
I'm
a slide.
discussing.
She has moved above that.
Go to Ring Road, Benin City. Okay, so I'll be discussing on this Ring Road roundabout. I'm sure most of you who have visited or who reside in Benin must have, you know where Ring Road is, and you have been passing the roundabouts and seeing all those monuments around it. And at either consciously or subconsciously, your attention must have been drawn to these monuments, wondering what do they represent? Are they just there? Some people don't have actually thought of it. Some people just pass by it and don't really pay attention to the significance of those monuments and all. And even the roundabout, the Ring Road roundabout, it was formerly known as King Square. And from my findings, I have come to learn that it was actually known as King Square because it was closer to the Benin Palace before the British expedition. And I think it was an area where the Oba carries out some of his traditional functions. So, and it was during the era of Ogbemudia, during the time when Benin and Delta states were under one province, that's the Bendel province. It was during that era, I think Ogbemudia had, from his experiences during his travel around the world, he got to see the Tiananmen Square. Yeah, this idea of building the Ring Road roundabout was inspired by his travel around the world. So when he came back to Benin City, he decided to construct that roundabout also in his city. And the purpose was basically to control traffic in and out of the Benin. You see that the Ring Road roundabout has about 8 major routes that some lead to Onitsha, in fact, basically those routes, they lead to the major geopolitical zones in Nigeria. You can follow it. You can go through there to the east, to the north, to Abuja, to Abeokuta, and other places. So around this roundabouts, there are some significant monuments that are of historical and cultural value to this next slide. That are of significant
slide.
and cultural value to the city. These monuments basically depicts the Benin royalty, the Benin culture, and it also reminds the Benin people of the British expedition of 1897. So one of those monuments is the Oba Oboranwe
Nogbaisi.
yeah,
Oba Oborame Nogbaisi.
yes, that is one of the monuments there. So he's okay. I don't need to tell and give much explanation about his personality and all. We all know that he's the last independent Oba of Benin. It was during his era that this expedition took place, and his reign was characterized by a very high level of European influence. So, and I also have the Bendel discussant. Yeah, this is the Bendel discussant. Most people refer to this monument as unity, symbol of unity. But it is actually, yeah, you can regard it as symbol of unity because it symbolizes the oneness of the Benin people, or the relationship between the Benin people and the Delta people. So, and I also have that of Asoro. Asoro is one of the legend in the history of Benin Kingdom. So he fought gallantly. He was a Benin warrior that fought gallantly during the British expedition. And I think the monument is located along Sakomba.
Close to Sakbomba Road.
Yes, close to Sakomba Road. And there is also a historical narrative of which is not very much verified, that area in which his monument is being situated was where he actually stood to fight
the
British army, and I think it was only the Oba that was allowed to pass through that area. So that kind of translates the name to, I think, Sokomba, something
Yes.
like that.
That only the Oba can pass.
Only the Oba can
Sokomba.
pass. So, and this is very significant to Benin history and culture. And then I also have the statue of
Emotan.
Emotan and the Olokun goddess. So Emotan here was also one of a historical figure in Benin history. So I think she was very active during the era of Oba Ewura.
Ewari.
Sorry, pardon my pronunciation. So she actually aided she actually provided a lot of support for this Oba, and she was also a trader. So most people refer to her as a market woman. I think her monument is located close to the Oba market.
It's not just a monument, it's a worship place.
Yes, and recently the monument has also been deified. People
Not recently, it's long.
okay, yeah, not recently.
Up to 400 years.
It has been deified.
Yeah.
Okay, then there are also other monuments. There is Oba Ewedo, there is Oba Esike, and there's also the monument of a Benin chief. So this actually depicts the Benin traditional attire. In the Benin chief, you can see.
Please, let's listen to her, please.
In his full regalia. So this actually depicts the richness of the culture and art of Benin.
Yeah.
So that of Oba Ewedo, it also represents the journey of the Oba into the throne. So now the major significance of this public monument to the Benin society from the
2 minutes around.
Okay, so one of them is collective memory and identity formation. So these monuments are there. They don't speak for themselves, but as people pass along the road, subconsciously you are looking at it, you're asking questions in your mind, and in curiosity can drive you to begin to ask questions. What does this signify? How does it concern us? And then you begin to realize the significance of this monument. And then it also serves as a tool for remembering and honoring the past, like that of Asoro. The legend of Asoro can never be forgotten in Benin, partly because of that monument that is structured there. Even the generations yet unborn will come and see it, and still, even if they don't get to read this information from books, they will see this monument and gain some knowledge. And then lastly, it serves as a public space for education and information and knowledge formation. I've already explained that. So then I discussed challenges and controversies. So some of the challenges of this having public monuments around is the issue of vandalism, neglect, and preservation challenges. So during one of my visits to Benin City, I could see that some of those monuments had been defaced. At that time, there were advertisement posters around those monuments, and it's not supposed to be so. That is actually a way of vandalizing public property. Those, if people understand the significance of those monuments, I believe they will not deface it in that manner. And then there's also debates over representation and interpretation of historical events. Although there is there is a unique or a common information or aspect of history that these monuments reflect to us, but not everybody will agree on the same narrative, and people view it from different perspectives. For example, when you see the monument of Oba of Oranwe, some people would be thinking in their mind, this is the Oba that was defeated and exiled to Benin and all, while some people would see it as a remembrance of what the expedition of what the Benin people went through, and we actually see the try to see the challenges or the effort that the challenges that this Oba must have faced during his reign. So not to take too much time, I'll just go straight into my conclusion. So the study of public monuments and historical memory reveals the relationship between memory, identity, and power. Monuments are not just static relics of the past, but dynamic entities that reflect and shape the evolving narrative of history. Understanding the background of public monuments involves examining their historical context, the intention behind their creation, the reception over time, and their role in contemporary debates about memory and identity. Through this lens, monuments can be seen as a vital component of the ongoing dialogue between the past and present, shaping how society remembers and understands their history. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was a beautiful presentation, a very interesting one. And I want to appreciate you, Mary Jane. I'm happy you are here, and the presentation came out extremely well, came out so beautiful. She's been able to talk to us about the history of each monument. And as we grew up in Benin, we're taught this history. It was just natural to us. But for somebody to be able to give us concrete analysis of this, it makes it so interesting. Picking each of them, there are more monuments there anyway, but this came out so well. And lastly, you did not mention the Olokun monument. I think it skipped you a little bit, you know. So the other monument on the other side, where you see a fish, a human being, who half human and half fish. That monument represents the worship of Olokun in Benin. You know, by September in Historical Society, I'm going to be discussing water bodies and Olokun worship in Benin. And I'm a little bit, let me say, I'm an expert and an insider in Olokun worship because I was born into Olokun worship. And you see, somebody was discussing that this Olokun is a female. In the last seminar, the last panel we had, that because we know that those of us that are scholars of Benin history and looking at Olokun, we know that Olokun is a male god. It's not, but he has wives. And that was what I was trying to say to the person, that Olokun is a male deity, but his wives are also regarded as Olokun, and each of them are still, they have different names. You have the one we call Ezenugegbe. My grandmother owned is Itegele, and Itegele is a male Olokun, and that is why you see all the women in my family act like male because of their the ancestry, yes, of you. So, and they are always very rich, wealthy, and powerful, and all that. Powerful women, yeah. So, I just wanted to throw more light on the Olokuns. Just so let's clap for her once again. She did a good job because she's not actually from Benin, and she did a great job. Right now we'll take the next presentation, which is my presentation, because we want to allow Amen to settle down. You are ready now?
Hello.
Okay, she's ready.
Hello.
Okay, so we are taking Amen right away, and Amen is going to
Hello.
be dealing with very important issues. You said?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Abigail. Is that Abigail? Do you want to? Oh, okay. Abigail is
Hello.
online.
Can you hear me?
Abigail, we can hear you. Is she not the one talking? Yeah, she's presenting a paper here. She's supposed to present before. Yes.
Hello, panelist.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us, Abigail?
I can hear you. I've been following you right from the first presenter, but trying to reach you, but no response. You have to check your WhatsApp.
Okay,
So
we can hear you.
I don't know.
When it gets to your turn, after Amen, you will be the next to present your paper.
All right.
Did you
Thank
hear
you.
me? Okay. All right. Amen, you have 10 minutes. Speak to your paper. I know you have been on it for days, years. Speak to it. And because we don't have much time.
Project a page at a time, please. Thank you. Thank you.
No, you have to see what looking at part of where you are looking at this being, because not looking at that place.
Oh, okay. Good day, everyone. My name is Amenalawon Ijao. Someone actually pronounced the full name.
Amenagawon
Eletomai. That's actually a sentence, right?
The sentence
Ijao.
name.
And I'm from the Institute of African and Diaspora Studies, University of Lagos.
Yeah.
My aim for today is to provoke thoughts and to spur reactions that will develop the content of this paper. And the paper is titled, "And That's from a Child, Rethinking Social Interactions for Language Preservation and Cultural Continuity." From the title, no, please, return there. From the title, we see a play of words, a pun, and that from a child. And it brings to mind the biblical inference in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 15, which says, "And that from a child thou hast able to know the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith, which is in Christ Jesus." So if we juxtapose that with this topic, there is, there is a thought that knowing would actually be more productive from childhood. Next slide, please. Right, this is the overview of today's paper. Contemporary, by way of introduction, I'll say that contemporary African decoloniality discourses is dominated by the eroding cultural values, norms, and tradition and language in Africa. For the purpose of this presentation, my focus will be on Edo language, Nigeria. I was going to say, all right, such views about the facing languages, culture, and traditions, especially in post-African literature, explore the relationship between modernity and tradition, or the relationship between the notion of foreignness, what is Western, and the notion of the indigenous. We also see an interplay between individuality, collectivism, and identity. There is therefore a divorce from local culture. There is a alienation of forceful injection of the indigenous language. No, please stay there. There is forceful injection from indigenous knowledge systems, right? And also we see death or extinction of rich functional ethnic creativity that has birthed identity through spatial relations. Examples of such would be communities like Ajawa and present-day Bauchi, Basaguna in Niger State, and Gomgini or Kenji dialect, and so on. Sadly, Edo language, one of the prehistoric, languages, is also at the brink of extinction. One of the emerging questions, therefore, should be, should the language of the colonization that is, should English language be aborted? Should English language be adopted? And that will make me refer to the thoughts by Albie Sachs, who propounded lepatitude in 2000, all right, which stems from Black consciousness or movements such as negritude and tigritude, all right, where we see domesticating foreign language effectively, as a tool to communicate interethnic consciousness within a social cultural space. For example, I reflect on Chinua Achebe's Hour of God, and I see a portrayal of aspects of Igbo culture and mythology, where we see the marriage and the funeral rites, the polytheistic belief systems, the traditional judicial system, and other relatable cultural interactions and nuances within and around sub-Saharan Africa that is being communicated in the language of colonialism. Right. So we see that Achebe in Things Fall Apart, for example, advanced his belief. Please go to the next slide. That the stories of those on the margins of society, that is the marginalized, should be told by people who experience them directly. Those stories that are told by people who are first-hand, experiences will be regarded as authentic, nuanced, and profound in revolutionizing discourses on the African experiences. And some of the objectives of this paper will be to interrogate the implications of social interactions, local communication on ethnic peculiarities, to investigate the effects of Western cultures on cultural spaces, right? And to reinstate the relevance of orality in language preservation, as well as authenticate a nostalgia that will promote action-oriented motivations for continuous cultural belief. Next slide, please. All right, it is Falaye in 2012 who said, and I quote, that an understanding of the pristine notions is at the heart of any reawakening of the African self. Any form of development, be it economic, political, or social, there is no real virtue in finding a sanctuary in complicated jargon, academic jargons. Next slide. And that is why, by way of conceptual presentation, my data attempts to present this nuanced, authentic insight that reflects the reality of the facing past in the futuristic present. And my attempt is to decolonize epistemological theories. I postulate an indigenous concept that says Akugbe or Etin. And Akugbe, a Benin word that means unity, in juxtaposition with Abumbe, a word that means multitude or group of people. So where you have a situation where there are scholars who are deliberating the colonization of African languages, now the interest would be in a unified force to ensure, a successful promotion of African cultural values. And then Akubo Etin also redefines the use of indigenous ideologies and approaches in solving indigenous problems. It establishes the relevance of indigenous knowledge for cultural preservation and intergenerational transmission. Akubo Etin here also presents dynamic analytical tool crucial for the preservation of the matrix of African cultural practices. Next slide, please. All right, Unswanlele in 2005, 15 rather, in Children and Childhood in Colonial Nigerian Histories, opines that Nigerian childhood could be explored as modern subjects by way of inducing change rather than being victims of change. And that is why, next slide, please, methodologically, this paper adopts descriptive observation. And descriptive observation in this sense is a detailed account of a particular situation. And I will detail the account of this situation that was cited in a family house at Ota, Ogun State at 3:70 p.m. And then the age of the child is there, 34 months, right? And observer's name, of course, me, length of time, 28 minutes, a number of children that were setting are 2. And because please go back to that slide, thank you. And because it is descriptive observation, it details the account of the particular situation. That is why I will read quickly a detailed account of my data for this paper. Now, brief description of the child. The name that is assumed for the purpose of this presentation is a hyperactive child who loves to play. He's 0.726 meters in height and he's in preschool. D had just finished lunch. He invites his older brother to play. They run to their bedroom. He hurriedly brings out a toy box, empties its contents on the floor, searching frantically. He heaves a sigh of relief as he picks a truck off the floor. Going on all fours, he wheels it back and forth, making the sound boom, ping, ping, boom. Next, he says, Oju oye, oju oye, oju oye. I no get change, oju oye, 50 naira. Next, he screams, I'm a Spider-Man, and he hops on the sofa, landing with a thud. Then he exclaims, Super Gecko Muscle, and then jumps on the floor, hops back to his room. He picks a notebook from the table and says, if you hear your name, say present. He picks a teddy bear lying on the floor beside his door, feels its neck with his right hand and exclaims, oh, my baby is cold. He grabs the blanket on his bed, spreads it on the floor, and places the teddy softly on it. He dashes out and returns with an earpiece. Patting his chest with his right hand, he yells, I'm a doctor. He picks a shoelace, ties it around the teddy's right arm, then plugs the earpiece into his ears and places the other end on the teddy's arm. He looks, hangs the earpiece around his neck and says, sun is cold. Let me go get methylatum. He heads for his bathroom and returns with a cup of methylator and dusting powder. He applies both on the teddy and says, Soyi, okay? He lays beside the teddy, singing softly, twinkle, twinkle, little sky, how I wonder what you eye. His eye drifts to another object lying on the floor. He picks it with great excitement. He climbs on the dining chair, then on the dining table. He picks up the table napkin, spreads it on the dining table, and begins to iron in pretense play. He calls his brother to take his turn ironing and warns him, don't burn it. Be careful, you see. After ironing 2 iron stems, B says, it's okay, let's go to our room. Right, please go to the next slide. Right here, the data I presented to you, all right, tells the story of a child in modern African society who has social interactions with all of the environment. We see him performing the role of his class teacher in calling the attendance in his book, if you hear your name after present, the role of his mother or even the doctor in trying to treat the child, the role of the bus conductor on the road through traffic. If I'll do if not get money, I not get change. And all of those interactions that have formed the language, right, of communication. Here, in retrospect, I mentioned that one of the objectives is to spur nostalgic feelings, to going back to how to rebirth, African cultures for continuity. Growing up in Edo State, Nigeria, I was particularly captivated by the vibrant cultural performances that showcase the rich heritage of the Edo people. For example, on display, we have a cultural performance during the Igwe festival, and then we see the leaf, everywhere leaf being preceded by the child to the man. And then we hear songs like, Ariye go mo buga o, Ariye go yo yo. Iyewe go mo buga o. No yo ewe de. Ewe de. Ewe rame. Ewe iyeme. Now, such cultural festivals left a lasting impression that sparked curiosity about the functional ethnic creativity and dynamics of the Edo language. Furthermore, trips to Oba Palace in my undergraduate years also solidified my understanding of the interconnectivity of performances, cultural specificities, and space for cultural continuity and language preservation. My research engagement also recently in a fully funded project that was titled Regenerating Non-Formal Learning in Africa, Digitizing Yoruba Folk Tales for Animation and Value Education. A pilot study also exposed me to major themes for in African cultural studies beyond the Yoruba language. So rather than playing what Falaye in 2008 opines as the African victim syndrome, I posit the appreciation of the symbiotic relationship with the Western and the indigenous, or symbiotic in this case, not in terms of parasitism, all right, will spur conversations that will help us to understand that the West is actually not the enemy of the rest, right? And also help us to foster an understanding of the disparity between the physical symbolism of culture and the attitude of the mind in response to the question of identity. The data presented, no please, the data presented reveals scripted nature. Thank you. All right, of the modern African child who has become a bounce off of colonial and epistemic rape, if you permit that word. So in wrapping up, could you please go to the next slide? There has been attempts by Nigerian government, for example, through policies to promote the nation's indigenous language, and some of these are the findings of the paper. Next slide, please. However, I would say that beyond the regulation by Nigerian government, for example, some of the interventions are to promote policies to ensure that the Igbo, Yoruba, and Hausa, the three main languages, are being taught in school. And I wonder what is the effect or the impact of these three. No, please go to the previous slide. What is the effect or impact of these three main languages on some that are in the minority? For example, my son, who is an A+ student, has to battle with his grades every term because of his performance in Yoruba. He is not Yoruba, right? And then even now, even more is the need for participatory. Please go to the next. Thank you. Now, the need for participatory or plural voices, carving out cultural policies and symbiotic symbolism. All right. At the start of my presentation, I mentioned my intention to provoke thoughts and positive reactions to develop this paper. So some of the thought-provoking questions will be, will sensory foreign infiltrations, for example, impinge on cultural continuity? Will it be productive or will it be counterproductive? If so, can we possibly censor our mode of dressing? Recently, I was in the summit and I saw someone come to present the Yoruba Oriki dressed in traditional attire on jeans. So how would you censor your mode of dressing, which also is a form of identity? In closing, I would like to reference Falaye Aya's conversation that said that we need more contact zones to create a space for critical discussion and to propagate and exchange a continuous cultural belief. I am told that my time is up. Thank you.
Let's clap for her. I've told her before, but this is what she will do. I know woman. I told her, I said, don't come here and begin to analyze. Okay, I mean, your work was actually very interesting and beautiful and perfectly presented, just that you took our time. We gave you 10 minutes, you used 20 minutes. Well, so, we are going to be taking the next presentation. She just discussed something on Igwe Festival and we sang the song together a few minutes ago. So the next person is going to be dealing with Igwe Festival. Abigail, can you hear us?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. Yes, you can hear us.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. We can hear you clearly.
Fantastic.
We can hear you clearly. So the paper.
Sorry, Can I continue?
Yes, we want to give out the title of your paper. The paper of Abigail is Economic Revival and Igwe Traditional Festival, a discourse on two Nigerian play. So Abigail is a lecturer at the I think English department in Nnamdi Azikiwe University. So and she has a PhD in English literature. So she will be discussing to Igwe Festival using two plays to analyze the issues of the Igwe Festival. So Abigail, your time starts now. You have 10 minutes. Please.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, my slides are not ready and my video won't be up due to some Nigeria happened here. This place is dark. I was actually enjoying that presentation by the last presenter, especially the part when she was singing the song, stuff like that. My paper is more or less a commentary and also seeking for answers and interventions towards this Edo, or rather Benin Igwe festival. Before I start, let me give a brief history of the Igwe festival. The Igwe festival started in the 14th century during the reign of Oba Ewera I. Yeah,
Eware the first.
Okay, Eware the first, also known as the Prince of Ogun, whose reign was between 1440 to 1473. He started the festival as a sign of thanksgiving to usher in a new era, new year, new administration, to celebrate his victory because he actually fought to get to the throne. So consequently, other Obas started doing it after him. However, Oba Kenzwa II, during his reign, tried to give it a little touch by involving some other cultural activities within this particular festival, now making it to last for some days, sometimes 1 week, 7 days or more in Benin. So this was actually a major achievement that Oba Kenzwa II brought to this celebration. In all of this, non-natives are not welcome within the palace, which has somehow or unconsciously been extended to the Benin's families of not inviting guests to this festival, as important as this festival is. So that is where our discussion this evening will be centered on, as we are looking at two texts titled, one, of Oworanwen Ogbasi by Olarutumi, and Ahmed Yeriman's The Trials of Oworanwen. In these two plays, one thing is common to them. The first one by Olarutumi, when the British colonialists were approaching Benin during the Oworanwen's reign, one thing he said that we are preparing for the Igbe festival is starting in a few days. So visitors are not allowed. Again, in Yeriman's play, he made the same comment. And in looking at Igbe festival, and even having some kind of discussion with some persons in the palace, will I say the prince, now the younger brother to the present Oba of Benin, I had a discussion with him. And he is somehow saying that, yeah, that the thing is a sacred kind of festival that is sacred and is within the Benins, is within the natives. So I see it funny because at this time and age, things should change. Not bringing people to the palace, but create a kind of centers for cultural tourism during this festival in Benin. So this paper is arguing that there should be room for further involvement, just like what Oba Kenzwa II did. During his own time, he started spilling the bloods of animals along the road and for public display, for their blood to actually flow to the road or towards the walkway from my investigation. So now that was a major event, major achievement. Now, why can't this present reign or the scholars in Benin, especially the historians, now I'm actually talking to Dr. Iziengbe Onoha, why can't a proposal be brought up for cultural tourism when this kind of beautiful festival is on? Because I got to know that it usually happens every December, first week of December, which is a perfect timing. Because I try to sample my opinion with that of Calabar Carnival, trying to see if how is it profitable, or how does it really affect their IGR, the internal generated revenue in Calabar from Calabar Carnival. I discovered that as of 2022, 41% of the state IGR was generated from their carnival. Then in 2023, 51.1% was generated from their carnival, meaning that what they are getting from just that carnival alone is even more than more than half of what the state is getting from every other revenues, every other outlets in a year. So imagine what would be of Edo having been listed as one of the major cultural homes in Africa by UNESCO. So these are my thoughts. These are the questions I'm asking. Why this? Why are strangers being restricted? Why not create a kind of cultural hub, cultural tourism, where this kind of, because this is my first time of hearing this kind of song, and I so much love it. I enjoyed it. Because I'm in this panel, that's why I can enjoy it. But people are out there asking questions. There's something they call Igwe Festival in Benin, but people are not allowed to attend. So that is what I'm actually looking at. Yeah, because I am from Edo State, but I'm not from Benin. I'm from the Esan tribe. I so much enjoy the videos and stuff online, but I've never seen an advert where people are being invited. So it's like we are actually somehow shortchanging ourselves, because we cannot have beautiful thing like this and it's been hide under the carpet. It should be let open. I like the discussion I had with the prince. I told him, if the sacred or these rituals whatsoever can be done within the palace, then they should create a space for other people. And he said, yeah, that I just raised the point that will be looked into with the Council of Elders. So that's why I said my paper is actually seeking for questions, seeking for how do we do this? How do we move forward? Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, Abigail. You know, the moment I saw your paper, when you sent it to me, and I laughed. My undergraduate project was titled "The Economic Undertones of Igwe Festival." So, and what I did there was to look at the morning that Igwe Festival brings to Benin during its celebration. I think it's a little bit of error that when they tell you that people are not allowed. In Igwe Festival now, it is a carnival. Where are those in Benin? It is a carnival. It's just that it has not gotten to Calabash level. Europeans are there. You will see people come from all over the world. If you want to see European, come to Benin during Igwe Festival. They are lined up all over, So it's been open because, what he was trying to talk to you about is every home, every family has their personal Igwe day. That is the one that is for their family. Do you get me? Then the next day is when, because I grew up enjoying Igwe Festival, people come to our house. The next day is when they make the pounded yam, and the animal that was killed last night is used to prepare the pounded yam. And people come, your friends, your family, they come to eat with you. And that is how it is. In the first few days, before the Igwe, the Benin Punitive Expenditure, the British came during Agwe, when the Oba is doing his fasting. Before Igwe, he does his personal fasting. And after this personal fasting, that is when the feast comes. It's like when we get into New Year, Christians, what do? They enter into fasting, or before the New Year, they enter into fasting. Then when the New Year comes, we celebrate with food. Christmas comes, we celebrate with food. But before that time, they fasted. And even when the New Year starts again, they also do the same thing, just to for protection and everything. And that was what was happening in Benin at that point. The two texts that I think you are supposed to use, Abigail, one of the texts that you're supposed to use is Queen Sister by Irene. Queen Sister dealt with everything about Igwe Festival. The Queen Sisters whose story became, I think I have a copy. She sent it to me. Irene that I'm talking about, I can't remember her surname. She's okay, I'll get her surname for you and all that. So those particular books can maybe you pick one on the Ogbaisi, that's the Obavorament's expenditure, then you now pick Queen Sister to rework the paper so that it can come up better. And Igwe Festival, a lot have changed. You know, it's been long you came over to Edo. A lot have changed. The celebration is every year it becomes bigger. I usually go every year before, but I've been very busy for the past few years. But if you go online, go to YouTube, check videos on Igwe festivals, you will know that people are not allowed to be part of it. It is just those personal celebration time. The prayer time is like Thanksgiving. The Thanksgiving period, that is what is sacred for the family. But all other things, you are all invited. So thank you for your paper. It was beautiful and it's interesting. And the point you have made will get back to the Oba of Benin. We'll get back to the Oba of Benin to tell him your point. So then questions will come after the last paper. So this last paper is.
Can I say something?
Yeah, no. After the last paper, you will. Yes, we have one more paper. After this one, you will say something. Did you hear me, Abigail? Dr. Abigail?
Okay, noted.
After this,
Noted.
yes, after this paper, you will make your points. Okay. The Lagos Studies Association Conference, African Identity. Please, next slide. There's no next slide. Please, you can quickly. This paper is the title is not there. Okay. Benin History and Afrobeat, a study of Charlie Poppy Oba Pluto. So why do we want to look at Benin history and Afrobeat? You know, what did Charlie Poppy do that is making me, for example, to draw thoughts? And this is a working paper. I want ideas to make it something that will become a reality. We are going to be looking at the music video of Charlie Poppy. We'll see the display of culture, values of the Benin people, and then the message of the song. Move. No, the video, the first video. Can play the video, please. All right. Continue. Keep it. All right. All right. All right. Next video. The next video. The same song. I want you to hear the voice of my student singing this song. You listen to the student voice screaming on this song. So you can pause it. No, that same slide, please. Okay. My name is Izenbe Pat A. Buka Onoa. I am known as the celebrity lecturer. I make history and I teach history with fun. And I bring my the realities of our world to the classroom. And I also bring my classroom to my social space, my social media. This video went viral as I was trying to use the return of the Benin artifact to teach my students the values of the Benin history, using Oba Pluto's song to bring them to the knowledge. I understood that in 2023, when this song came out, there became an unusual consciousness of every Benin young man. You know, usually our history has been told to us from when we are children. Every day, every night, we have the Taste by Moonlight, where our parents teach us. For example, before I studied history, I'd known almost everything about Benin history because of our Taste by Moonlight from my grandmother. It was normal. So by the time I was doing Benin history in 400 level, it was as if it was my backyard, you know. You just walk over and get an A on that. So this was the culture. But in this new generation, these cultural values has been lost. A lot of people, when you are back from work, everybody is tired. Go and sleep, do your assignment. That is the end of the whole situation. So a lot of Benin boys, young boys, they just know that they come from a great heritage, powerful heritage, but they don't really understand the values of this heritage. This song, taking us back to 1897, the song is about two people coming together. Okay, the first person, that's the old man that was singing Ogbaisi. That song was recorded about 17 years back, when our centenary celebration of the Oba of the conquest of Benin, 100 years after the conquest of Benin and the deportation of Oba Ovorame to Calabar. So that song was sung at that point in time to remind the people of what happened to us. Ogbaisi. Ogbaisi is like, okay, we are explaining what the European that came from the sea they did to us. So how they took away our heritage, took away our independence, took away our personality, and then the worst thing they did, they deported our Oba, moved him to Calabar. So when they were celebrating that particular centenary celebration, this man wrote this song and it was popular. A lot of people wrote different songs about that. Songs have been part of Benin history. Even when the folk states have been told or everything, like first, before I started doing Benin women, I already knew that so when I began to read about Idia Iniesige, and it was in my consciousness because my grandmother has sang that song for me over and over again to let me know that a woman had never gone to war before, apart from Queen Idia Iniesige. That's the first man. That her face is the second most popular royal face in the entire world. So I got to understand these things at a very young age because of the cultural heritage that had been passed. At the point of dealing with young people, making them to have consciousness of their history. I was teaching West African history there, and Benin was just a section of West African history. And something happened that was monumental. They brought back the Benin artifact. So at this point, I called everybody who are of Benin descendant, not only the Benin speaking, all Edo, because if you read Bradbury work, you will know that we are the Edo speaking people. We move beyond Edo state. We move up to Delta state, Onitsha, and many other parts of Nigeria. So everybody that has connection, according to history, to Benin, we're all called that, and like, you must value your monument that has been returned. And it was while we were celebrating that I said, bring Oba Pluto song. And each student could sing that song properly. They knew everything about it. And I understood at that point the consciousness that Oba Pluto song has brought, Charlie Poppy's song has brought to the young generation. You see him, he took from Ogbasi, who is a old generational singer. He brought him. He was Ogbasi was dealing with history. Pamon de Edo was dealing with the history of Benin. He now brought it again. And when you listen to the lyrics of the song, he was talking about where he is from. He said, nine men. Oba Aborame, nine men. Meaning, when you say somebody are men in Benin, you are talking about great people. Men go show, men mount, men, see, he's telling you that Oba, even though they conquered Benin, he's referring back to the history. A young boy, this Charlie Poppy is a small boy, but at this point, he said he grew up. When I listened to his interview, he also grew up in a family where the history of Benin had been transformed to him. And he grew up listening to Monde Edo's song, and he was just a young man at that point. So he's bringing back the history to the young people. Now, many people who did not know about the conquest, the teenagers who didn't know about the conquest of Benin, who didn't remember how important, how significant it was to us and everything, this Oba Oborame, Oba Pluto song brought it back to life. So that is why I said Afrobeat and Benin history. A study of Oba Pluto Charlie Poppy song. So I just I've rounded up, moved to the next slide. I've said almost everything in the slide already. Yes, move forward. And in this work, actually, the methodologies in which I use in getting my data, I use qualitative methods of research. I employed both primary and secondary sources, and I use the internet. I followed, if you look at my Facebook page, I follow Charlie Poppy, the ideas, the discussion from the young people, and that methodology is called ethnography. And I use both, yes, ethnography and ethnographical study. Being in Benin, I would have said I've studied the history of Benin almost all my life. So, and I will round up the section by asking for your suggestions, for your input in making the work better. Okay, no more time. Yes, time. It's supposed to be 7. It's to 7, yes. Okay, thank you very much. We had 5 powerful papers. So let's drop our input. Because we don't have so much time, people are hungry, they have to go and take dinner. Please, I need your input on how to make this paper a reality and publish it in an international journal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I can see your energy, your passion in this work.
Yeah.
And I want to congratulate you in advance.
Thank
I
you.
know you did cover very well with it.
Thank you,
One
ma'am.
thing that I want to suggest is maybe you bring in some other people, or you can refer to some other, or compare to some other culture. Yeah, not just because you have you are too personalized about it. But it's good to be very maybe you can trace the history also to where things is coming from. That way, maybe it will complement the work in the same country.
You said comparison. I think I like the part of comparing with other cultures.
To other, to say,
Yes, yes.
like to add to what you said, in terms of stop bringing this idea of African, you can talk about music and then that's relatively to other cultures.
Yes.
And how it has also, maybe it should broaden the work, it don't make it too narrow.
Now, okay, music and identity.
The other speaker, the second speaker, Mary Jane, I also want to comment for a very quick word. Well, I want to not always say I think. I think makes us to feel that you have not really done the work or maybe just borrow ideas. So it will be very good for you to establish your plan, family, by not,
They said we have 10 more minutes. Uh-huh.
And thank you, our logistics team. Really been doing a very wonderful work. Well, maybe some of the terms I'm not familiar with because I'm not from the history background, but I can see that you have incorporated into your work what I have from my background. That's very
You are very versatile, like all that. Okay. Thank you. Yes, thank you, musicologist.
I love the fact that she wrote out tirelessly, but she did not. She can to read by, she brought out lead board of belief. Yeah, I'm talking about the center. She can also relate that topic. So she said she's planning to publish. She can also bring another story out of it about road
Network.
that topic to really make more interest. Then towards your own music Afrobeat. Yes, lovely. I find that you're coming from the point of history.
Yes.
But now, for the fact that you introduce Afrobeat, you have to analyze the lyrics of that song.
Yes, yes.
So your
I have it.
methodology has to change.
Okay.
Yes, you did a qualitative yes because you have to ask people about the song. But you have to put into consideration your lyrical analysis, which is content.
Thank you.
That.
Thank you.
Which to explain, you have to give interpretation to your.
So the lyrics, yeah.
For Amen's work, very lovely work,
Yeah.
because I love the fact that her presentation was almost like a storytelling, which she can also bring about. Yes, she's trying to tell us how what we call childhood. Yes, childhood. She's also bringing in culturation into that topic. So it's something that she can also bring more topic out of what she.
Yes.
But from the beginning to the end, it was there.
Ah, amazing. Yes. She always has, okay. Thank you, thank you.
Was an historian.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I gathered it. Yes. Thank you very much for that. You know, Afrobeat. I'm coming. Time. We will take you edit. Don't worry. After her, I'll take you. Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, somebody mentioned 14, and he said 1440. I hope the correct thing 1440
Yes.
So that's the one.
Thank you.
But when you mentioned India as the most fantastic maybe or very good for, I just worry.
No, I didn't say she was the first to go to war in the whole world. I said she's the her face is that first stack face. That's her face. Second most popular royal face in the world. Yes. No.
Please, I don't want to understand whether the name or the way or the way festival. What are the metaphoric direction one can use from context? African symbols and myths, they represent very long history that could not be said any longer.
Yeah.
You don't see that just like the tree here. The face of the deer is a mythical, has a mythical dimension and metaphorical dimension. So in that way, if we are what are the metaphorical components or composition of what we see visually?
Okay, thank you, sir. Please quickly your question so that Abigail can say a word.
So you need see one at Ring Road that you see all those markets, but they have tolerance.
They have it in other places, but you have more in Ring Road. Yes, you have more in Ring Road. Okay, Abigail, you said you wanted to make a point. Are you online, Abigail? She's no longer online. Okay, so we are. Huh? Oh, you want to say something to conclude because we are done with this panel.
The conference, and I want to commend you. Very
Thank you.
special.
Thank you.
This is my first time of attending LSC. As someone forwarded it to me, and I just said, let me just go. I've been out of the academic space since 11 years. So I'm ready to come back to my bench. So I love the way you get the history and the culture. My name is from Benin. I stayed in Benin and lived my life in Benin. My children, my wife, all stay in Benin. But the Igwe festival, sorry, not the Igwe festival is like, it's a tradition, it's a Christmas.
Yes.
I know what it is. No, it's not just no, that's listen, sir. That's Benin traditional Christmas. Christian. No, it's not.
It's easy to equate. Equation.
That's Christmas. That's what Christmas
So Christians. Or New Year.
And where it comes from, it comes from the it's not far from
Everywhere live. Everywhere live.
Okay, it's a leap of blessing. Because I see no, the platforms are used by them. It's not platforms. They are using that one is it's used. They are
Who do that one to drive the evil spirit away? They will, yes.
Some will be singing the song and bad and everything will be going. It is the women that do that way.
Morning, yes. That one is for the blessing. That's why I was telling her there's a book she's supposed to use.
You go dump it somewhere.
So, panelists, we are taking a picture together. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming to our panel. We are grateful.